Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. I enjoy how easy the meals are to make and the variety to choose from, and of course, how amazing the meals taste. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. You can choose from a variety of new recipes each week, like meatball pizza with fresh mozzarella cheese and charmed tomatoes, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you're never going to get bored. Customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. Blue Apron has several delivery options, so you can choose what fits your needs, and there's no weekly commitment, so you only get deliveries when you want them. Each meal comes with a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe and pre-portioned ingredients and can be prepared in about 40 minutes or less. Blue Apron's freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they'll make it right. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. You're going to love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so do not wait. That's blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. Blue Apron, it's a better way to cook.
Support comes from Blue Apron. Blue Apron delivers farm-fresh, perfectly portioned ingredients and step-by-step recipes so you can make incredible meals at home. Rediscover how fun cooking can be while reducing food waste and supporting sustainable farms and fisheries. Visit blueapron.com/Mike and Mike to get your first 3 meals free.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Welcome to Mike and Mike in the morning. ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app. Clinton Yates, Booger McFarland. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Phone guests appear on the show, Penzo Performance Line. You can hit us up on Twitter at Mike and Mike or on Instagram at ESPN Mike and Mike. You can follow Booger on Twitter at ESPN Booger. And I'm on Twitter at Clinton Yates. You come at me crazy, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. How you doing this morning, Booger? What's going on?
Hey, man, it's all good. What's happening?
Nothing much, man. You know, happy to be here. First time sitting on this set, talking to America. It's also my first time meeting you. So
well, listen, don't be amazed. There are a lot of gadgets up here, and sometimes people get very nervous around all the technology and all the people talking in your ear. Just don't get nervous, and don't listen to the people in your ear.
No nerves whatsoever. I am ready to do this. It's time for Off the Top.
Off the Top.
It's brought to you by Zeepa. Go to Zeepa.com. That's ZYPPAH.com and get a Zeepa so you can stop snoring and enjoy the summer. Adrian Beltre of the Rangers became the 31st player in MLB history with 3,000 career hits. He banged a double in a 10-6 loss to the O's on Sunday. Beltre is the first Dominican-born player to reach the benchmark. He joins Ichiro Suzuki, who's Japanese, Rafael Palmeiro, who's Cuban, Rod Carew from Panama, and Roberto Clemente from Puerto Rico as the only players born outside the 50 states to reach 3,000 hits.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You know, he's only the third player in the club who played third baseman primarily. And I thought something that was very neat, that his family was there. His 2 daughters and his son was there in the front row. I played my entire career. My kids didn't get an opportunity to see me play, so it had to be a thrill for him to do this great accomplishment with his kids there.
They unveiled that banner, and then they ran out. It was really a good moment overall.
Off the Top.
The MLB trade deadline is today, but there were 4 notable moves on Sunday, highlighted by the Royals acquiring Melky Cabrera from the White Sox. Cabrera has had career highs in hits. There's 201 homers, 18 of them, and RBIs, 87 in his lone season in Kansas City in 2011.
Yeah, that was a nice little move, but I think the big move we're waiting on is to see what happens to Sonny Gray and Justin Verlander. I think those are 2 moves when you start talking about pitchers. We want to see where they want to go, especially Gray. He's a coveted guy because he's young, he's controllable, and his contract is very team-friendly. So to me, that'll be the big domino to fall if it falls.
Right, and you got to wonder what Verlander's going to do because a guy like that at this stage of his career, you just wonder where he wants to be.
Off the Top.
There were 5 walk-off hits on Sunday, including 3 of the homer variety by the Jays, the A's, and the White Sox. Both are the most on a single day this season. The highlight of the bunch was a walk-off double by Kyle Farmer in the 11th of the Dodgers' 3-2 win over the Giants. Farmer is the first player in Dodgers history with a walk-off RBI in his first career plate appearance. That's courtesy Elias.
I'm just glad there were no broken tooth. I mean, after Aaron Judge broke his tooth during a walk-off celebration, hopefully the players will learn how to celebrate. Like, baseball players are kind of awkward. When you break your tooth during a celebration, that just shows how awkward they are.
And that's one of those moments where if you're the guy that's got to pick up that tooth, you got to think, what am I doing with myself?
You don't even pick it up.
I'm in the bigs. I figured out that I want to be here, but if I'm picking up dudes' teeth off the infield, got to get it together.
Off the top.
All right, and the U.S. beat Brazil 4-3 in its second game of the Tournament of Nations in San Diego. Wasn't that simple, though? The Americans trailed 3-1 but scored 3 goals after the 80th minute to keep their hopes of winning alive. Julie Ertz scored the winner in the 89th minute while Megan Rapinoe's goal in the 85th minute was her first for the national team in more than 2 years. I watched this game, Booger. It was a weird one, but it was a fun one.
There's nothing like getting a group of people together to play for their country in any sport to galvanize this country. Like, you get people who start watching soccer that don't even know how to spell soccer.
Right.
But all they say is, I believe we'll win. Country.
Hey,
that's all they go with.
That game started with one of the worst gack-at-the-back goals I've ever seen in my life. Keeper hit it off her hands and just botched it and went straight in. They had to make a comeback. It was a pretty wild play. Anyway, good game.
Off the top.
All right. So, Booger.
Yes.
Viking star.
Yes.
Xavier Rhodes. Contract extension.
Uh-huh.
This is courtesy ESPN's Adam Schefter. Terms of the deal were not disclosed, but Schefter reports that Rhodes signed a six-year extension worth $78.126 million. That's a lot of money, Booger. The deal includes $41 in guaranteed money and will keep Rhodes under contract with Minnesota through 2022, according to Schefter. What do you think of the deal?
Well, I think this is a very good deal, and this is the reason why Minnesota's done well drafting. Ideally, when you draft players, he's a first-round pick, you want to draft, develop, and then pay your own players. That's what Minnesota's done here. So this is a good deal for him. Lets you know they drafted well, they developed well, and he's turned into one of the better young corners in football. So great deal for him. And for any franchise out there who's looking how to get it done, how to groom players, this is how you do it. This is the way you take care of your homegrown guys and keep them in the fold. Great deal for him.
He now becomes the third highest-paid cornerback in the league in terms of average annual salary, according to Schefter, trailing only Tremaine Johnson and Josh Norman. Rhodes is 27, and he earned his first trip to the Pro Bowl last season and is considered one of the NFL's most physical and skilled cover corners.
Off the top.
I like it. You made it through that, man.
I'm trying, man. You know, I got these papers shuffling, doing all sorts of stuff, moving around.
The white paper matters early. The pink paper matters late. That's what you need to realize.
All right. Well, guests on the show later. We're going to have Tim Kirkjian, ESPN MLB insider. He's coming up at 7:10. At 8 o'clock, we're going to have Louis Riddick, NFL front office insider. And 8:30, my man Bomani Jones is going to join us on the phone. You know him from hosting The Right Time on Bomani Jones. And at 9:30 a.m., Tom Verducci, MLB Network insider, is going to join us. So talking a lot of baseball. Baseball's my jam, by the way.
I like it.
Well, for those of you who don't know that, I'm not a huge NFL guy, so I'm glad you're here today. I'm a baseball guy. I'm another sports guy. So once we talk about football, what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to point to you and laugh.
I knew you were a baseball guy when you started referencing the Hartford Yard Goats pre-show. And for those of you guys who don't know, the Hartford Yard Goats are a minor league baseball team in Hartford.
Yes.
Well, their mascot is a yard goat.
Correct.
And before the show, you started giving me a lesson about what a yard goat was. He's like, I bet nobody here knows what a yard goat is.
Give everybody a lesson on what a yard goat is.
Mainly me, because I had no idea what a yard goat was. The first thing I said, just like some of the people that work on the show, was a yard goat is a goat that you keep in the yard. You're like, no. So tell everybody what a yard goat is.
A yard goat, boys and girls, is a tugboat for trains. That's what a yard goat is. So if you have a train yard, you have a train that pulls the other trains around the yard, that's what a yard goat is.
I thought that was just Thomas.
I'm just saying. They should have the yard goats have a goat as their mascot on their hat, but somehow the goat is not wearing a conductor's hat. I don't know what they're doing. That I do not understand.
Okay, listen. That lets me know that you're a baseball guy. Anytime you know the historical references of a minor league baseball team's mascot. Yeah, that's what I do. Okay.
I go around the country, and when I'm in different places, I go to minor league ballparks and I go to record stores.
I hear you.
Pretty much all I do.
I like it.
You know, just saying.
Educate the country a little bit about Clinton Yates. I like that.
So, look, yesterday we had a lot of talk going on in Ravens world about what's going to happen vis-a-vis Colin Kaepernick. And to me, this is a fascinating story for a couple of reasons. Number one, all of these excuses people have about whether or not it's a football reason to sign Kaepernick or not, to me, are directly out of the window, considering the way that the owner of the team, Steve Bisciotti, was talking, considering the way the head coach of the team, John Harbaugh, was talking. But on top of that, Baltimore is a different place than a lot of places in America, Booger.
They are.
Yeah.
And, here's the thing about Colin Kaepernick. I think Colin Kaepernick is so fascinating because we've become so fascinated with who's going to sign him, how the fan base going to react that we've lost the message that he tried to get out there early on. His early on message was really simple. I'm not going to celebrate a flag or a government that's going to keep black people oppressed, and while we watched innocent black people being killed and nothing being done about it.
Right.
That was his initial message. We haven't talked about that in a long time.
Not remotely. And Baltimore's a city that saw the death of Freddie Gray. We had 6, I believe, maybe even 7 officers who got off as a result of that. So
Baltimore was where the wire started.
Off. Yeah, right.
That's where the wire came off at. Like, for those of you guys who are used to watching television and the historical references, the wire.
Yeah.
One of the most crime-driven cities we've seen in America. But getting back to Colin Kaepernick, the whole theory about him being blackballed, to me, was one of those catchwords that we use. Blackball, racist, gets everybody tuned in. I jumped on early on. Is Colin Kaepernick being blackballed? Yeah, sure he is. Then you say, you know what? Let's take a step back. Let's sit back and relax and watch this play out. Colin Kaepernick, if you look at his film at the end of the season, played pretty good.
Yeah.
So this is not a football thing that Colin Kaepernick can't play.
I've always said that it's an organizational thing.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
If you are willing to admit that your organization cannot handle the proverbial circus, and I use circus in a very sort of air quotes way, then I understand that.
Correct.
But don't lie to me and tell me it's a football reason. Well, when it comes down to is that you just aren't ready for a guy like that to infiltrate your front office and your overall press scheme because you just don't have, you know, the horses, for lack of a better term, to keep up with that.
Well, it's not even the horses. It's you don't have the personality.
Yeah.
You know, sports are just a microcosm of life, Clinton. And when you think about certain people in life can handle pressure, some can't. Certain people in life can handle being made fun of, some can't. The owners are people. The owners are no different. You got 32 billionaires who want to be liked, who want to feel good about themselves. And what you have is you have different groups, as you said, organizations who feel like, you know what? We can deal with the brunt of whatever happens outside. As long as the move makes sense football-wise, we can deal with it. Certain owners are coming out. The Giants, Mr. Mayer came out and said, you know what? Yeah, you know, our fan base is really kind of lukewarm on that. Really already said that they would be protesting against that. To me, that's an organization, if it made football sense, maybe they would do it. But they floated out there, hey, here's what we're thinking or here's what we're talking about. And if you notice, some owners are actually having conversation about it. Some owners, you can't even get them to comment on Colin Kaepernick. Those are the owners who you know they want nothing to do with Colin Kaepernick.
Right, because they're not even trying.
They're not even trying. But you have a group of owners like Mr. Bisciotti, even though we don't understand some of the comments that he made, like Mr. Mayer, they will talk about it publicly, which lets you know that if it made football sense for them, they would do it. So do I think Colin Kaepernick is being blackballed? No, I don't think he's being blackballed. What I think is you have people who are trying to figure out, one, does it make football sense? I think if Joe Flacco's back lingers, okay, if it goes longer than a week or two, I think there will be serious consideration in Baltimore because Baltimore is an organization, they don't care about public perception if it makes football sense.
Clearly.
If the
Ray Rice situation was going to be a thing, and let's not forget about one Reverend Ray Lewis on top of that, obviously they don't care about off the field.
But they've garnered the trust of the people because of how they ran the organization, because Ozzie Newsome is one of the most respected front office guys in the league. So certain organizations can get away with this. If it were Jacksonville, they would be getting crushed.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. But right. The Ravens, the Patriots, the Packers, like some of your pillar organizations and your pillar owners and your pillar front office people, they can publicly talk about this because their fan base and their people and their team, they understand what they do. And to take it to the streets, they built some street cred.
Right.
That's what they've done.
Fair enough. Let's hear what Ravens overseer Bisciotti had to say about the Kaepernick situation yesterday at a fan forum.
It's not racial lines. It's not existing players versus pro players or former players. So I'm kind of gathering. I care about the fan base, but I have to absorb the opinions of the players that have been there. We do want to win games, and I'm not sure right now that he is going to help us do that. We're monitoring Joe. We've talked to Joe about it. We're monitoring Mallet. We're keeping our door open. We talked about RG3, bringing him in for a workout. We're very sensitive to it, and we're monitoring it, and we're still, as Ozzie says, scrimmaging it, and we're trying to figure out what's the right tact, and so pray for us.
Booger, the word to describe the way Bisciotti looks right there, as the streets view would say, shook. He is clearly in a situation where he is very, very nervous about what the impact of this is. Because, look, like I mentioned before, Baltimore is Baltimore.
Yeah.
If Kaepernick comes there, it is a very progressive city. A lot of black folks in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
That guy will be very well liked. So he's got a scenario in which he's got a dude who's already going to be able to push his activism front from a social standpoint with ease. Baltimore has plenty of problems that if Kaepernick gets his, fingers in the community, if you will be very well received. Not to mention the fact that Kaepernick's a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah.
And with Flacco out, let's not forget how Kaepernick got his job the first time when he was in San Francisco. It is a very real possibility that you create a legitimate quarterback controversy here, well beyond anything having to do with off the field or national anthem.
Well, Joe Flacco is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Now, Kaepernick has gotten there, but he didn't get it done. So I'm going to give Joe Flacco his just due. Do I think that he would be able to push Joe? Yeah, maybe, but probably not realistic.
Okay.
The bigger issue for me is the fact that even though he sounds shaky in those comments, he's standing up there and discussing and using Colin Kaepernick's name, which is something the overwhelming majority of the owners are not doing. And I think he's doing that because of Ozzie Newsome. Ozzie Newsome is basically probably behind closed doors, in my opinion, said, you know what? There is a real possibility that if Joe is out for an extended period of time, we're going to have to make a move.
Yep.
And if my options are Colin Kaepernick and RG3, it's not even an option for me. I'm going with Colin Kaepernick. Because Colin Kaepernick, at least I have good film on him more recently. RG3's film, the last time we saw him, was not good.
No, he's getting knocked out of bounds by dudes and he can't even stay on the field.
His mechanics in the pocket are terrible. He still hasn't learned to stand up, deliver, scan the field. Kaepernick has done that. Now, Kaepernick isn't perfect, but his ability to play the quarterback position has far progressed way better than RG3.
Mike and Mike is presented by Progressive Insurance. We'll compare rates for you so you get the best deal, even if it's not with us, saving you time and money. Now, that's Progressive. Call or click today. Ryan Mallett is obviously not going to work in Baltimore. I don't know how that dude ends up. I don't know how he keeps staying on NFL rosters. I think, what is he, 6'5" or whatever?
No, he's like 6'7".
He walks through the door, people just assume he can throw the ball down the field with accuracy. He can't. To me, though, if you're Baltimore, if you're consulting Ray Lewis on this, I don't know that that's something you want everybody to know. I don't think you need to have your entire process from the back to the front revealed. Because, first of all, when it comes to, listen, Ray Lewis is a man who's been exonerated by the law. I understand all that. I'm not trying to imply that because of the court situation he was involved with as a younger man, that it means that he has no ability to comment on anything. But I also feel like if this has to go this far in your entire organization, you're a little shakier at the top than you might otherwise be perceived. For me, this is a circumstance that should be handled between the owner, the GM, and the head coach of the team. Why you're going to sort of side guys that are in your alumni network, maybe because you're a little bit concerned, but this is not that difficult. This Colin Kaepernick situation has been out there for a while.
Right.
And if they hadn't already thought about it to this point, it just seems a little odd to me that they're revealing that they're going to go to a guy like Ray Lewis, because I'm not sure what he brings more than anybody else as far as that franchise is concerned in terms of, impact on what it could mean to them.
He brings kind of the pulse of what the locker room would be. Ray Lewis, regardless of what he did off the field, when it comes to on the field and football character, still held in high esteem.
Yep.
And all the people you mentioned, the owner, the GM, what they don't do and what they don't have is the pulse of that locker room. They can't go inside that locker room and understand how is it going to be affecting the team if Colin Kaepernick comes in. Because that's the thing you want. Like, owners and GMs can deal with all the outside noise. The noise nobody hears is the noise inside the locker room. What's it going to be like when the other 52 guys on the team have to answer questions about Colin Kaepernick? Will you stand? Will you kneel? What will you do? How does that affect younger players? Ray Lewis is a guy who can talk about the effects on the locker room. What effects would that have? And so I understand the perception of, we talked to Ray Lewis and we got his opinion. Ray isn't playing anymore. What difference does that make? But Ray can give you a player perspective. Now, what I would also hope they do is talk to current players.
Yeah.
Guys inside the locker room, guys that are playing now. Hey, Joe Flacco, what do you think? Okay. Terrell Suggs, what do you think? Those are the guys that can give you the current day pulse. But I understand, and I applaud Mr. Bisciotti for gathering the information. As we said, we've only heard a couple of owners talk about this, maybe a handful. He's been one of them. And in a day and age where no one wants to even mention the man's name, you have Mr. Bisciotti having an open, although uncomfortable, forum about Colin Kaepernick.
And it was in front of fans, too. It wasn't like some weird presser.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one player whose name I would have loved to hear in terms of people they'd talk to about it, Steve Smith. Let's hear what NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell had to say about Kaepernick and whether or not he agrees with Booger.
Are you concerned about the perception, at least with some, that he's been blackballed by the league?
Well, he can't be, because we're not. And those are the clubs are making those individual evaluations. They make the determination whether they think they can help win, and that's true with any player. And so that obviously, everyone's aware of the fact of his protest last year, and that's something that individual clubs will either weigh or not weigh. But I think they all want to get better.
I understand that Roger Goodell has a job to do.
Right.
And I get that he's supposed to represent the owners. And I get that he can't come out and say that a guy's getting blackballed from the league. But number one, it was funny to hear that, because it sounded as if he was saying, as if there is an official blackball move. Like, no. We know the I'll tell you when a guy's getting blackballed. Right. Like, as if that's something that pops up on the crawl. That'd be funny. But I just feel like he's insulting my intelligence by saying this all the time. It doesn't matter what the word is. It doesn't matter if it's a whisper campaign. It doesn't matter whether or not it's blackballed. I don't understand why Goodell has to constantly act as if there's not an obvious reason why NFL teams don't want him. I'm sure he can't necessarily bring it up, but come on. I can't stand seeing him saying this kind of stuff all the time.
There's an obvious reason, but it doesn't mean he's being blackballed. Let's bring this to real life. Let's say we got a big event to go to, all right, and it's a non-formal event, so it's not formal. Everybody get a tuxedo. You get on the phone, maybe call your boys. Hey, what are you wearing? Oh, I got this nice suit. What are you wearing? Oh, I got this nice. But then you got the one dude that just gonna do his own thing.
T-shirts and flip flops.
Exactly.
That's how your boy rolls.
That's not colluding. That's not, okay, we're going to get together and everybody do this. You have a group of people who are uncomfortable in this situation. Are they talking? They're talking behind the scenes. There are a group of owners who we haven't heard from that are uncomfortable, and they're talking to each other. Then you have the alpha dogs, okay, the Maras, the Bashadis, the Kraft that'll come out and say and actually mention a young man's name. So do I think that the word we want to attach to this is blackball? No. I think you have a group of people, just like in real life, who, when the situation arises in their organization, they don't know how to handle it. They'll call their buddies and say, you know what are you guys doing? Now, if you call that colluding, so be it, but I don't call that colluding or blackballing. I just call it, this is a very uncomfortable situation that some people don't know how to handle.
But why can't Goodell bring this up? This is what I'm saying. He doesn't have to air out every single NFL owner's feelings about this.
Right.
But you can say as the commissioner, yeah, there are some guys in the league that are not comfortable with this situation. If you're going to be a league that's going to claim to be operating on some level of progressivism, and I don't mean that for the sake of politics, I mean that for the sake of humanity, you've got to be able to discuss this at something more than just arm's length. That's what I'm saying, Booger. He can just say, yeah, we got a lot of dudes that cannot deal with a Colin Kaepernick type situation. Maybe it's time for somebody to do something about that, or maybe that's just their right as the owner of an NFL team to sort of obfuscate and act like, no, this is not what you see. It's actually something else. Come on, man. We're smarter than that.
Can't say it. There are things in 2017 that every one of us know and every one of us see and every one of us hear, but if we say it, it's an issue. This is one of those.
Yeah.
In 2017, there are things like that you can't say, otherwise they will be an issue. And Roger Goodell knows that. And here's the biggest fish in the pond. He works for the 32 owners. So is he going to rat out the people that he works for?
I don't look at it as ratting out. I see what you're saying, but to me, that is simply an honest approach to presenting your league. But that's not what they do, and I guess that's why they call them
exactly.
The best of Mike and Mike.
This wedding season, it's summertime.
Yeah.
What's your go-to dance move at weddings?
Two-step.
Two-step? So yeah. you just get your...
Yeah, I just get my two-step. Listen.
Little twist with it somewhere.
I actually had to take dance lessons when me and my wife got married. And about halfway through the dance lessons, I was like, you know what? This is stupid. I'm not doing this.
And you just threw it out the window?
No, I just threw it out the window. You know, I did it, and I tried to go along with it because you're trying to make the wife happy with the dance lessons. But I was like, no. The guy's trying to teach me the sauce. I'm like, dude, how many Mexicans have you seen that's as big as me that are salsaing? Like I never seen one, so I didn't do it. And so wedding night, wedding is great. Go to the reception, and now the music comes on, and you talking about I was nervous and scared. My wife, because she had no idea what I was going to do, because you got to go out for the first dance.
Right, people are watching.
Yeah, and the first dance was not just going to be this slow. No, we were actually going to cut a rug, and to let my mother-in-law say it, I stole the show. I couldn't tell you what I did.
You just blacked out
and how I did.
Had a moment.
I went in my zone.
Right.
But I had rhythm, and that was the only thing I was concerned about.
I'm a stanky leg kind of guy myself. I also got a little Dougie that I'll go to.
Okay.
I got a couple go-tos, but I'm not out there doing house party kid and play routines. I'm not.
No.
But Steph Curry did show out Harrison Barnes' wedding, mocking LeBron. Kyrie was there.
Yeah.
A lot of people have had a lot of opinions about this, and they think that it was pretty foul on some level.
Right.
I thought it was hilarious. But in general, I heard the word professional respect come up a lot, Booger. Now, for me, I'm not going to go so far as to say that weddings are off limits, but weddings are as close as you get to off the proverbial record when it comes to the fun you have and the jokes you make. You got best men that get up there, and they make fun of the people actually in the ceremony. So if you're telling me that a guy like LeBron can't get a couple jokes thrown his way that happen to make it on the social media, I think you're taking things a little bit too seriously. But, Booger, talk about professional respect and what that means in your opinion.
Well, this has nothing to do with professional respect. Professional respect, to me, comes down when you're disrespecting someone's profession, what they can do with their game, whether that's basketball or football. In this case, we're talking about LeBron James. To me, this all revolves around one simple fact, that Kyrie Irving was there.
Right.
Because these two teams have been going back and forth. Last offseason, it was the Cleveland Cavaliers trolling the Warriors with the Halloween photo and the cookies and things of that nature.
It was a good bit.
It was fun. This offseason, the Warriors are doing this. Everybody's doing the LeBron James challenge where he's got his shirt off in tights. You know, I've even done that at home. Okay.
You're a tights guy?
Well, yeah,
you don't throw a pair of shorts on over?
No. I took the shorts off just to get my LeBron on. Okay. Now, if somebody would have had a video camera, that probably would have went viral for the wrong reasons. But the issue here is that Kyrie Irving is there. He's laughing, and he's asked for a trade away from LeBron James, and all the perceptional rumors out there are really simple. He doesn't want to play with LeBron anymore. That's why this is a big deal. Yeah. And so we're saying now they're making fun of LeBron because you want to get away from him and go play somewhere else. I don't think the wedding reception has a lot to do about anything. To me, that's fun. That's joking. The bigger issue is the Kyrie Irving matter. And I think Kyrie Irving is at a crossroads in his career because he's trying to be a number one, okay? Is he a number one in this league on a championship-winning team? We don't know that. We've never seen it. We know he's a hell of a number two. We know he can be a great Scottie Pippen, okay? He doesn't seem to be happy with that. More importantly, Clinton, he doesn't seem to be happy with how he's treated. And my mother always told me, more important than anything is how you treat people. And you start hearing reports about he doesn't want to be sunned anymore. He doesn't want to feel like LeBron's the dad and he's the son. Well, guess what? That's a relationship issue between he and LeBron.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. When you're the point guard, the relationship issue with you and the star matters. I think people look at this in a vacuum, and they act as if Kyrie is somehow being insolent or somehow being, like, stubborn. Look, he's 25 years old. Yeah. If he doesn't like this dude, he doesn't like this dude. And basketball teams are not football teams. You ain't got that many dudes in the locker room. Right. And if half the dudes on the team playing are LeBron's boys, who, if he doesn't like LeBron that much anyway, and he's got to deal with his whole squad when he's not even playing basketball, it completely makes sense to me that Kyrie would want to get out of this for personal reasons and not basketball ones. As for him being at the wedding, okay, that's probably a bad look. In retrospect, you probably
just being there?
No, not being there.
Okay.
Getting caught on video laughing.
Okay.
Being there, yeah, it's your life. Hang out with your friends, do what you got to do. But the more I've thought about this, the more I have come to understand Kyrie's stance. If you don't want to fight under General LeBron, I am completely okay with that. There are things that matter to him probably more than basketball. And let's not forget they already got a ring. It's not like they didn't win, and he was a major part of that. I think he's proven himself in his mind from a basketball standpoint in Cleveland, and he's not LeBron. He doesn't owe the same things to Cleveland that he does. If I'm Kyrie, I completely get it. He's 25 years old. It's time to move on. He's a millennial. He's here for the gig economy. He ain't trying to stay in the same place for 35 years and get a gold watch at the end of the day. He's trying to move around and let people know who he is around this country.
And do what, though?
Play basketball.
How do we value Kyrie Irving as a basketball player? Okay?
I don't know that we have an answer to that yet. I think that's an interesting question.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how good that we really believe Kyrie Irving can be. What player do you think of when you think of someone whose career you might sort of substitute in for him? It's hard. It's hard to say because guys that are that young, that have sort of won a ring in that position, playing that, I can't think of anybody who I'll automatically say I could see it playing out to being a Stockton or or whoever. It's hard to really just make that delineation.
Kyrie Irving is a 6'2" scoring guard. He's not a true point guard who doesn't defend. He plays one end of the floor, and he can get buckets anytime he wants to.
Yep.
That's what he is. Can you win a championship with that? I don't think so.
They already have.
They want to.
What are we talking about here, Booger?
They won a championship with LeBron James as the focal point.
I'm saying, they don't win that title without Kyrie, in my opinion.
They don't win it without either one of them.
Right.
Okay, to your point. But What I'm saying is can you build around a 6'2" scoring guard that doesn't play defense and win a title where he is the key focal point? LeBron is the focal point of that basketball team. He's the guy that's going to bring it up. That's why this whole point guard thing is really a facade.
Right.
Who's the point guard? Who has the ball in their hands? They both have the ball in their hands. There's really no true point guard on that basketball team. And so when we try to figure out who Kyrie is, when you start thinking about, let's take this to the barbershop.
Yep.
If we're going to start a basketball team, how many players do we get to before we get to Kyrie Irving? There's several. I mean, several.
Yeah, but if you're thinking about guys who you would say, who's the next guy I want, Kyrie is very high on that list. And sure, he might not be the focal point in the context of every single play has to go through me.
Right.
But if he's a featured scorer who is not looked at as some sort of secondary, I mean lesser option, because he's not. He can score as well as any guy in the league. I get that. I totally understand. You want to be 1A and 1B, or you want to be 1 and 1. You don't want to be 2.
He's not 1 and 1. He's not even on the same level.
I agree.
He's not. He's not even.
I'm not saying he's making a smart decision.
Right.
I'm saying if I'm another basketball team, I'm saying, oh yeah, come on down, Kyrie. You a begrudging Kyrie, ready to prove something on your basketball team, is a fantastic player to have, in my opinion, if you're an NBA GM.
I agree with you, especially if you have the right parts around it. Okay, Kyrie Irving's not going to play anything on the defensive end. Like, if you took Kyrie Irving and put him on the Warriors aren't a better team. Like, if you replace Steph Curry and Kyrie, they're not a better team. If you took Isaiah Thomas and put Kyrie there, then I think the Celtics are as good or better, because they're similar guys, except Kyrie's bigger. They're guys that can score, guys that can get buckets when they want to, but guys that aren't going to guard me or you on the defensive end. And so it has to be the right situation for Kyrie to go and play. San Antonio, like, that was one of the teams he mentioned on his list. I think Pop would get the best out of Kyrie from a team defensive perspective. He's not going to guard anybody individually one-on-one, but I do think in this day and age, teams are making a decision. Do I want to defend you and lock you down? Because everybody can't be the Warriors. Everybody can't be the best offensive team and the best defensive team.
Right, that's just not a realistic option from a blueprint standpoint.
Right,
yeah.
And so you have to make a choice how you're going to win a championship. Are you going to do it? We're going to outscore people and average 115 to 120, or are we going to get a bigger team that's athletic that when we need to get 3 or 4 stops in a row? Because that's what basketball has come down to. It's not can you be a great defensive team, but can you go a 3 to 4 minute stretch in the game and get stops
and lock people down
for 3 or 4 minutes while your offense gets you a 8 to 10-0 run. Can Kyrie be a part of something like that? I think maybe Popovich feels like I can get him to play team defense for that 3 or 4 minute stretch. But Kyrie himself, his value, I don't think his value is a 1 in this league. He's not an alpha dog when it comes to, here's a guy I'm going to build my basketball team around from top to bottom. He's not that.
I think those are separate things, but I get your point. One word answer. Do you think he would be a good fit at the Knicks going back home?
No.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam
with an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at LQ.com.
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Clinton Yates, Booger McFarland filling in here on a Monday. All guests, join us on the phone via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And coming up at 7:10, going to have Tim Kirchin talk to us about a little baseball.
Yeah.
Going off?
Yeah. You might.
Professional. They didn't fire us, though. Alas, we're here.
It'll be interesting to get Timmy's perspective just about Adrian Beltre and where he fits from a historical perspective with baseball, because the third base position is a position that is really not been a lot of guys there that we think from a 3,000 hit standpoint that stand out. It'll be very interesting to get his perspective.
Absolutely. Let's read some tweets here, see what folks are telling us. At Mike and Mike, at Clinton Yates, at ESPN Booger, does Adrian Beltre speak English very well? Just wondering also why he could possibly be falling through. That's always a factor.
Right.
But again, Major League Baseball is not beholden to English as the only language through which you can promote yourself. I'm sorry, it's the United States of America. People speak more than just English. It is not. To me, that is not a barrier to making you popular when it comes to the people that actually like the sport.
No, it's not a barrier, but it definitely could be a factor among Americans, especially Americans that aren't Latin Americans or Mexican Americans.
Yeah. At Mike and Mike, at Clinton Yates, at ESPN Booger, I could watch 100 hours of baseball and could not tell you the difference between Beltre and Batista. My point exactly.
Well, they look different, first of all. I mean,
well, right.
Yeah. I mean,
different discussion, but yes, absolutely. And at Mike and Mike, Kyrie is too emotional to be the main guy in New York. The press would eat him up. Braun is the lightning rod and takes a lot of the heat off the others. That's actually a pretty good point. I think that there is something to be said for the fact that when LeBron is there, he eats up so much of the airspace. There's a positive factor to that in terms of the public eye, but I think in private, for a lot of guys, it actually takes away.
Just keep it real, man. LeBron's the best player in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
He's been the best player in the NBA for a long time. And some guys can handle it. Some guys can't. Some guys can handle being Scottie Pippen. Some guys can't. Okay? Some guys can handle being John Stockton. Some guys can't. And I think Kyrie's in a situation where, for whatever reason, whether it's professionally, whether it's personally, he's not handling it well right now. And the one thing that we don't know, and everybody's giving their opinion on this subject, the one thing we don't know is what goes on in the locker room. Having been in the locker room, here's what I can tell you. There are things that happen inside that are unbeknownst to the public that, if done long enough, will rub guys the wrong way. And no championship or money is going to allow me to forget that and come in this locker room every day and play with that guy. That's the one thing we don't know.
Speaking of locker rooms, LeVar Ball. Got to talk about it.
We don't really.
Well, so, okay, I'm taking it that you think that he's a little overexposed in terms of a lot of things. I happen to be of the belief, and I've said this plenty of times on this network and on these airwaves, to me, I like LeVar Ball, the dad.
Yeah.
I like LeVar Ball, the CEO of Big Baller Brand. I like LeVar Ball, the promoter of his sons. I do not like LeVar Ball, the basketball coach, because it seems that every time he gets himself involved with the specificities of being on the court, whether it's yelling at kids at Chino Hills High School, whether it's pulling his kids off the court at AAU, or whether it's this most recent incident in which he basically called a woman who was a D1 official, said that she was not prepared and dropped that line, stay in your lane, and had her removed from the tournament via Adidas. I'm not here for that. And I don't like the way that he tends to conduct himself when it comes to matters of actual basketball on the court. Booger, what did you think when you first heard this story?
Well, he's become a sideshow now. And as someone who grew up where my dad wasn't around, I respect the hell out of this dude for being there for his kids, man, and wanting the best for his children. I respect that so much. And I think a lot of people around the country are envious of that. With that being said, he's going too far. Like the story now, like Lonzo has gotten drafted.
Yeah.
He's played pretty well in Summer League. He got the Summer League MVP. Okay.
Dropping triple-doubles all over the place.
Dropping the triple-doubles. Look really, really good. He's wearing different shoes, so we stopped talking about the Big Baller Brand $500 shoes. The focus should now be on him, but we're still talking about LeVar because of his exploits and what he does. And to me, it's gone too far. I would love for him just to go sit down right now, but he wants it still to be about him. He got his 15 minutes of fame, and it's like he wants some more. And what he did to this young lady who's the official, she's one of the more respected officials around. When you hear, he said she wasn't in shape, okay?
Out of line.
Out of line. Going too far.
Foul.
He's crossing a line from being a punchline to now being a sideshow. And to me, the notoriety and fame that he had, he's losing now, and he's losing credibility. Because the point that he doesn't want to get to is the point we all don't want to get to in life. When we say something, people tune us out.
Right. And I think that, to your point, Booger, is that's unfortunately, I don't think we're there yet, because I don't think he realizes how important he is. Kids love LeVar Ball. You go to these tournaments. I talked with Myron Medford on radio yesterday, and he said, listen, this guy's like the Pied Piper. He walks around, and there's a certain rebellious element that he brings to the table that a lot of kids like and a lot of people who are in the game enjoy from a youth standpoint. So if that's going to be the case, if you're going to have people that like you, you can't just go around popping off and making all sorts of misogynistic statements about the people that are involved in your proceedings. You know what I mean? It's one thing to be the dad who wants your kids to succeed. It's another thing to be the P.T. Barnum showman who's trying to sell shoes. It's a third thing to be an actual role model to some kids in a position of authority and abusing that. And I think that if LeVar Ball was just a sideshow, this wouldn't matter. but he's still important on the youth basketball level to the point that he needs to understand that this has moved from more than just him representing his family. He's representing a larger part, a youth, what a lot of America understands, and just what youth basketball is to a larger portion of sports fans in this country.
He's losing that, though. He's losing it rapidly.
Fair enough.
I mean, there's a hole in the boat and water's coming on and people are ready to jump. Anytime you start taking people or taking a woman, someone respected, and diminishing what they do and who they are to build yourself up, that doesn't look bad. It's becoming a sideshow, and I think the quicker he can get it under control, and to your point, and this kind of leads us into the baseball conversation. You know, you were talking about marketing baseball players and their notoriety and things of that nature. LaVar Ball is marketable because of the outrageous things that he's done. He hadn't done anything really significant other than like his main job, which is raising Lonzo and raising LaMelo and being a great dad and taking care of his kid. But he's marketable because of the silly things that he's done.
Yeah.
Adrian Beltre, 3,000 hits, the consistency, is going to go in the Hall of Fame. But you say he's not marketable. Why? Because he's quiet.
Yeah.
He doesn't say a lot. He doesn't become outrageous and do outrageous things. And so being marketable has really nothing to do with your statistics. It has to do with how people look at you and how they view you, referencing LaVar Ball with Adrian Beltre.
LaVar Ball, man, get it together. There are people who like you, and if you're out here telling people that they can't be qualified just because they're women, that's not a good look, fam. Joining us right now, ESPN MLB Insider Tim Kirkjian in studio, giving us Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. How are you, Tim?
I'm good, fellas. How are you?
Timmy!
I'll be better today when the trade deadline's over.
I was gonna say, is this an Adam Schefter type situation where you have 9 phones going, people in your ear all day? What's your setup on trade deadline?
I'm not Adam Schefter. I'm not close. There's nobody close to that guy. But it's a relief when this is over because there's a lot of misinformation out there. I like to do the facts of the case, and we'll have most of the facts by 4:30 this afternoon, and I'll be feeling much better after that.
All right, well, let's start with one of the biggest fish out there, Sonny Gray. You hear a lot. The A's come out and say we're not going to move him. As a matter of fact, if we don't get what we want, we'll wait. What are you hearing about Sonny Gray?
Well, the A's can wait because he signed for 2 more years. He's 27. He's really good, and they don't have to move him. And yet, it would be logical to think that now's the best time to move him because you can get the most for him right now. Because if you trade him now, you get a pennant race for him this year and then 2 more years with him. Right. So if you're the Yankees or you're the Astros and you need a starting pitcher, I think you're going to have to give the A's what they want. And Billy Beane is very, very smart. He is not moving until he gets exactly what he wants. And if he doesn't get it, he will not trade Sonny Gray. I still think Sonny Gray goes today, but our GMs, especially our new young ones, the really, really smart ones, they will walk away from the table if they don't get what they want. They're relentless, and they do whatever it takes to improve their team. Very interesting time.
How do you see Gray fitting in if he goes to one of those teams, though? Because that late-season trade doesn't always work out for every pitcher. That's not always something that's a great fit. How do you see it working for him?
I think it works for him beautifully because he joins whichever team he goes to, likely a pennant contender. And I think that jazzes anyone in that situation since he's really never pitched in a pennant race before. And his stuff is really good again. He throws hard again. He's got that great changeup. He's working down in the zone again. I would love, if I were a Yankee fan, I would hope that they get Sonny Gray today. But if I'm the Astros, who really need a pitcher also, I would hope we're the team that gets him.
What about Verlander? Is he going to get moved? I know there's a lot of talk about the 2 years and $56 million that's left after this year on the deal, and Detroit saying that we don't want to eat all of that. Where's that going to go?
I'm going to say, and we're all guessing with several hours to go here, is that Verlander's going to stay because of the money complications there. Now, if he were to go to a contender as widely competitive as that guy is, it would be a tremendous addition for a new team to get that guy who's got postseason experience, big game experience. But with the money involved and with Detroit saying, no, we're not going to pay to give you Justin Verlander, I think he's going to end up staying there.
Trade deadline coverage today. Baseball Tonight special at 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2, followed by MLB Intentional Talk at 4 p.m. Eastern. Last thing I'll ask you before we switch gears to the Hall of Fame, Tim, what are my Nationals going to do? They got any chance to make some moves that they need to? Are they going to make another move for the bullpen? Because right now, Still a little dicey.
Right. Mike Rizzo, the GM, is very aggressive, and he's also very sneaky. At the last minute, he always goes in and gets someone, whether it's Max Scherzer in the free agent market, whatever.
Or Papelbon.
Right.
Remember how that worked out?
Exactly.
We didn't forget, Mike. Sorry.
I think they're still in on Zach Britton of the Orioles, but I don't see that happening because those two markets are in contention with each other as far as radio TV rights, and I just can't see Peter Angelo sending Zach Britton to the Washington Nationals. So they're going to look elsewhere for another reliever and maybe do the whole bullpen by committee for the ninth inning, even with the guys they just acquired. They were also in it for starting pitching also because we're still not certain how hurt Steven Strasburg is. He's been on the disabled list 8 or 9 times.
Yeah,
So you're just not sure. So they're in on Sonny Gray or any other quality starting pitchers out there, and they have some pieces to deal. But Victor Robles, their young center fielder, they're not trading him, which is why Sonny Gray is still on the A's, because they said you're not getting Victor Robles for Sonny Gray.
Tim, switching gears to Adrian Beltre, became the first Dominican player in the 3,000, Dominican-born player in the 3,000 hit club. Just put his career from a historical perspective, kind of lay it out for us.
Well, he's certainly one of the greatest third basemen of all time. There's no way around that. He's played the second most games at third base of anyone in history. Only Brooks Robinson's played more. Among the contemporary guys, he's certainly one of the best. My greatest third basemen of all time are, this is just my list.
Okay.
It's not the correct list.
Tim Kirk's
not the list to say, hey, this is right. It's not. It's mine.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's Mike Schmidt, number 1, Eddie Matthews, number 2, George Brett, number 3, Chipper Jones, number 4. Then it gets a little dicey for me. I've got Brooks Robinson, 5, based on when he played, 16 Gold Gloves. Wade Boggs, number 6. Wade Boggs statistically is ahead of Brooks Robinson, but with all things considered, I have Brooks ahead of him.
Yeah.
And then Adrian Beltre falls about 7th. Now, could you make a case that he's in the top 5? Absolutely. And when you look at the power and the 3,000 hits and the Gold Gloves and the leadership, it's remarkable how good this guy is. He just got off to a semi-slow start in his career statistically because he came to the big leagues when he was 19. He's playing at Dodger Stadium where nobody's, it's hard to hit in Dodger Stadium. And then he went to Seattle. It's harder to hit there than it is in Dodger Stadium, at least back then. So he's had a difficult journey as far as big ballparks and everything, but he's really come around to the point where he's one of the best players of this generation and a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure.
We're talking with ESPN MLB insider Tim Kirkjian. To that point, though, we were discussing this earlier in the program, Booger. If Adrian Beltre walked down the street in half the cities he plays in, nobody would know who he is. And I'm of the opinion that Major League Baseball, this is a perfect example of why this game is dying at that level, because people like Adrian Beltre, they cannot even find a way to turn into superstars. We all know he's got a pretty funny personality, / we don't know that, and that's the problem too.
Well, the people in the game know exactly who he is. You may be right about the people on the street, and yes, baseball needs to attract more people on the street, and these players, especially the best ones, need to be more visible. How do you do that? It's not an easy thing to do. The interesting thing is we were talking about with Beltre, if you meet him or see him playing for the first time and you actually don't get to talk to him, he's got this menacing scowl that is really it can put you off because it's intimidating. Then when you get to know him, you realize he's got this great smile. He's got this great way about him. He's great with people. He's good with the language, and so his look and who he really is are two different things. You just got to get to know him.
And Tim, when you look at also the Hall of Fame class was inducted in Cooperstown. Pudge Rodriguez, Bagwell, Tim Raines, Commissioner Bug Selig among the ones that were inducted. When you look back on Bug Selig's tenure as Commissioner of Baseball, what do you think is going to be the most impactful thing that he did?
Well, I think it's going to be the raise in revenues within the sport. When he took over, it was a pretty nice little, healthy little sport, and now revenues are $10 billion. It's unbelievable how much the game has grown, and he's had a lot to do with that. He's also invoked a lot of change. Interleague play, 2 wild cards, all that's Bud Selig. So he's still got, of course, the steroid era and the strike of 94 on his resume. That's never going away. But I just don't know if you can write the history of baseball without Bud Selig as a critical piece over the last, 4 decades, essentially, and that's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Reading a tweet from Rich Eisen, the words, quote, fostered an unprecedented stretch of labor peace is on the Baseball Hall plaque to the only commish to cancel a World Series. That's actually pretty funny. Overall, what did you think of the Hall of Fame ceremonies this year? I mean, I know that for me, the Cooperstown events are very much for like baseball lifers, you know what I mean? That's not something that the average fan is going to draw, you know, is going to say, hey, let me tune in to what's going on out there. But what did you think just from what you watched him as a guy that's been around baseball for a long time?
Well, I thought that the speeches were great yesterday, and I've been to dozens of those inductions, and they're all great for me because it's really emotional for those guys. I was struck by a bunch of things yesterday, but one on a completely different level is the three players who went in yesterday are under 6 feet tall, okay? Tim Raines is 5'8", and he could run like the wind with great power.
Why did it take Tim so long to get in, though?
I'm not sure. The statistical guys, the sabermetric people helped get him in, okay? But I'm telling you, I am 60 years old. I watched him play in his prime. All you have to do was watch him play in his prime, and you say to yourself, as I did, this guy's a Hall of Famer.
Eyeball test.
It was unbelievable how good he was. And we've stopped watching the games for the most part now, and we're determining the greatness of players by a set of statistics or some sort of website is going to tell us something when we should really just watch the games because you can't miss Tim Raines as a Hall of Famer. But he's 5'8". Pudge Rodriguez is barely 5'9". Jeff Bagwell is listed at 6 feet tall. I don't think he's that tall. Just another reminder that you don't have to be the biggest guy on the field. You just have to have great skills, and all three of these guys had tremendous skills. Pudge behind the plate was ridiculously good. And he used to use this really small catcher's mitt because his hands were so good and his hands and his feet were so quick that he didn't want some big, cumbersome catcher's mitt that he couldn't find the ball in when he went to throw to second on the double play. He was like a second baseman making the turn, and it was breathtaking to watch.
Tremendous receiver of the ball. He also was the guy who did something that I loved a lot. Was he would throw behind batters at first more than any other catcher that I can remember of note at that skill level. I want to ask you this, though. I am 36 years old, so the guys that went in this year are the first real class I can remember of dudes that I saw play from beginning to end in their career, for the most part, who I can remember. Where do you think this class stacks up against some of the others you've seen in terms of those that have gone into Cooperstown recently?
Well, this is a pretty good one, but I covered the Brett, Nolan Ryan, Robin Yount, Orlando Cepeda one, which
quite strong,
pretty darn good. But this is awfully good when you consider Tim Raines has got to be one of the three greatest leadoff hitters of all time. Reached base more than Roberto Clemente and Tony Gwynn. Think about that for a second. Pudge Rodriguez, at worst, is one of the 7 greatest catchers of all time, and defensively, probably one of the top 3 catchers of all time. And Jeff Bagwell, you could easily make a case he's one of the 5 greatest first basemen of all time. So those are some pretty darn good numbers that we're talking about here. And all 3 of those, well, 2 of those guys had trouble getting in the Hall of Fame, explaining again how difficult it is to get in at 75%.
Give me a funny story about this class. Just pick one of the guys out of there, and whoever you want to, and give me a funny story that our audience wouldn't know about one of these guys.
Well, I'm not sure any of these guys were particularly funny. I was always amused that Jeff Bagwell was a soccer player in college, and he had great feet. And this isn't funny. This is real.
Right.
And one reason he was a great baseball player is he was a soccer player, and his feet around the bag at first base were great. He's one of the best base runners I've ever seen, in part because his feet work. And this is a reminder to little kids out there, don't specialize.
Yeah, exactly.
Just play one sport from age 7 on. Play them all.
Right.
If you play soccer, it'll make you a better baseball player.
Yeah.
If you play baseball, it'll make you a better basketball player. That's how it works. Omar Vizquel told me the other day, he said, Jose Iglesias of the Tigers, he says, his hand, the shortstop, are as good as my hands were, but my feet were better than anybody's feet, and that's why he was such a great defensive shortstop, because he was a soccer player also, and it helped him play baseball.
You know, as somebody that played soccer and baseball in high school, that makes me very happy to hear that.
Oh, wow.
You know, just putting that out there for
soccer
you. Soccer
and baseball. Okay.
I played soccer, baseball, and basketball. Yeah, but I mean, he's right. The footwork thing is a very important thing. I still use it to this day. Anyway, I'm just saying. ESPN MLB insider Tim Kirkjian joins us. Is there any surprises you think we're going to see today from the trade deadline that you've got in the hopper?
I'm just fascinated to see what the Rangers are going to do with Yu Darvish. He's got an ERA over 7, in
Does
the month of
anybody
July.
want him, though?
That's what I'm saying.
I would want him absolutely because he's a rental, so you don't have to pay him much. And then if you don't like what you see, you can let him go at the end of the year. But he's got number one starter stuff, obviously. And when he's right, nobody can hit him. But he hasn't been right lately, and this is why the Rangers are in such a quandary here, exactly what to do with him. They want to re-sign him. It's going to cost a fortune. Does he want to re-sign there? Is he going to be worth the fortune that they give him? And do the Dodgers say, all right, we're going to win the World Series this year if we get Yu Darvish? They may be saying we're going to win it anyway. So it'll be real interesting if we see the Dodgers, who passed on Cole Hamels a few years ago and David Price a few years ago, saying we're going to build from within here, whether they say, all right, we need that one more piece. So if you have healthy Kershaw, followed by Yu Darvish, followed by Rich Hill, followed by Alex Wood, wow.
Don't you think, though,
rotation.
like with the Dodgers, is that going to depend on what they feel about Kershaw and his back situation, or are they going to make that move independent of what they know about his back?
Well, I think they're going to do it with knowing that Kershaw's not himself right now. But I think he will be himself in a month. I think he'll come back strong. I think he'll be great in October. But they could use another starting pitcher because that's going to be a pretty difficult National League. If the Cubs continue to get better, if your Nationals continue to rise a little bit, no guarantees in baseball that just because you're 39-6 in the last 45 games that you're going to win the World Series. They may say, all right, we got to have one more piece, and Darvish is it. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. I know that's certainly been discussed.
The best of Mike and Mike.
It's time to play fill in the blank, Booger.
Mm-hmm.
It's brought to you by Mahindra Tractors and Utility Vehicles. Mahindra USA, the world's #1 selling tractor. All right, here we go. All right, Embo, let's do it. What do we got?
Let's do it, boys. Number 1, Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving mocking LeBron at a wedding was blank.
For me, tremendous. What do you go to weddings for if you're not going to make fun of people, including yourself? It's not like Steph Curry was all that funny himself. He was trying to make fun of LeBron. Kyrie might have gotten into a bad situation in terms of what was caught on video, but I loved it.
Non-issue. And I realize that's more than one word, but here's what I'll say is that if it were not for the Kyrie Irving wanting to be traded scenario, this would be a non-story. These two teams have gone back and forth for the last couple of years. If you remember Cleveland with the whole Halloween, the cookies, all that stuff they did with the Warriors, they've played 3 straight times in the finals. They know a lot about each other. And whether or not they play each other again, that's yet to be seen. But I will tell you this, the outcome of this season will have no bearing on the fact that Kyrie and Steph were at the wedding mocking LeBron. I wish they were mocking me. I wish it was me that was standing in front of a tall mirror with tights on, a six-pack, no hair.
This is the second time you've referenced this, so I'm starting to believe you're projecting a little bit.
No, but seriously, sometimes you can be envious of something. Like, it's okay sometimes for people to mock you. Like, when you're in a situation, LeBron can be mocked. He's one of the most, if not the most recognizable person in the world, especially in sports in this country.
Yeah.
And what he's done in basketball, to me, has been tremendous. This is a non-story, what happened at the wedding. The only story here is whether or not Kyrie Irving is going to be traded, which I'll still say this. I don't think he's going to get traded.
I just love the fact that we're talking about Harrison Barnes. He got jettisoned away from the Warriors, and people acted like he was the worst person on earth, but they all still showed up to his party. You got to be pumped if you're Harrison Barnes.
Last time we talked about Harrison Barnes was about the 18th shot he missed in the finals.
Exactly. Good for him. Congratulations. What do we got next?
It's blank that there were still hundreds of seats available for Mayweather-McGregor.
I think it's expected right now. I think a lot of people are still trying to get a feel for what this is. By the time fight night happens later on in August, I think it's going to be sold out. I still think it's going to set records for betting. I think it's going to set records for pay-per-view. And not because we're intrigued by the outcome. I think we're intrigued just in case something happens. Oftentimes you go to sporting events or you buy pay-per-views or you tune in to certain live events because of what if. What if this happens? I want to see it live. It's one thing to see the replay. It's another thing to be there or see the spectacle live. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why the overwhelming majority of the public are going to tune in for this fight. 99% of us know the outcome. Okay, we know Floyd is going to win some way, somehow. Whether he outlasts him, whether he knocks him out, he's going to win. But just what if? What if there's a show? What if there's a side? What if something happens that's memorable? And I think that's why we're going to tune in.
I was talking about this with Russillo on his show the other day, and if you ever seen the movie The Great White Hype, you know how that one ends. I think it's hilarious. You know why? Because these two dudes take themselves so seriously that if the one outcome that comes of this is that nobody shows up and nobody watches, that will be extremely funny because both of them are pretty despicable on some level if we're being honest. And if this ends up being a complete dud of an event, I think that will actually make a lot of boxing fans as well as a lot of MMA fans very happy because in a lot of people's minds, you're right, it is a total sideshow that people are only showing up for one reason, and if it fails, there's a certain level of comedy in that.
But it's entertainment, though.
I agree. I'm not hating on it. I'm going to watch it.
Sports, movies are entertainment for us in this country. That's what this will be. This will be entertainment for a night because I can't think of anything right now that I got planned for August the 26th except to watch this somehow, some way.
You ain't got nothing else on the schedule? You don't got a wedding to be at?
No, exactly.
What's next?
John Jones calling out Brock Lesnar for his next fight is blank.
I would say expected. I mean, what else do you do? John Jones came back. He won that fight. I actually watched this. I don't watch a whole lot of MMA, but I watched this live at a bar with my friends, and it was a pretty good fight. I enjoyed it, and he's made his way back. John Jones is the guy who's got a couple of brothers who've also played other sports, just by the by. I know that. That's me just flexing and acting like I know something when I don't really know much about this fight at all. But Bones Jones, man, the guy made a comeback. I can't be upset about him at all. And calling out Brock Lesnar is what you've got to do because that's the only way to stay relevant in this sport at this stage.
I think it's smart. He's trying to set up an event, even though there are different weight classes, even though it's a different size of fight. He's trying to figure out a way, how can I capitalize on a big victory that I had and now come out, talk some noise, capitalize on my stardom. You said something that was interesting, though. You went to a bar.
Yeah.
Are you a guy that watches sporting events with a group of people at a bar? Do you like to be around a lot of people?
It depends on what it is, but yes, especially for an event that I don't care about,
right?
Like when the outcome matters not to me, or if I don't know as much about it, absolutely I'll go out and watch it with other people. But if it's a game I'm actually concerned about, I tend to stay home or watch it with a select group of friends.
I always watch the Super Bowl, all except one time alone. Because I want to sit there. I want to watch the game. I want to pay attention to the game. I usually watch sporting events alone.
I have stopped watching the Super Bowl with people.
I can't stand watching an event. Now, fights are different because you don't really need to hear some of the guys with the commentating. You can see the action. Football, you want a little bit more introspect as you're watching the game. So when it comes to football, basketball, even baseball in the World Series, I want to be alone in the man cave, watching the game, listening. I can go take my bathroom break when I get ready. Right. So I thought that was very interesting what you said.
No,
most people, I think, want to be in a group setting because people want to drink, party, have fun, eat. They don't want to listen and pay attention to the fine details of the game.
I'm a guy that scores baseball games when I go to them, so I know what it's like to be in solitude.
You do what?
I use a scorecard. # kids dig the scorecard.
So you're in the stands, with the scorecard,
scoring the game.
Do you have a mitt too to catch a ball?
No, you don't use a mitt unless you're in little league or younger. These are the rules, Booger.
I'm just saying.
I can catch a ball with my own two hands.
Yeah, but
I need a pen and a scorecard to keep track of what's going on. It's a nice little thing. I'll put them on Instagram. It's fun, man. It keeps you in the game.
Why not use technology? I'm sure somebody has an app for this somewhere out there.
You know why, Booger? Because I have excellent penmanship. Thank you very much.
ESPN will do it for you. Why are you in the stands with a piece of paper?
Do you really want me to break this down to you as to why people score games at their games?
People. I'm not talking about people. I'm asking you.
Why do I do
as
it?
As a 36-year-old man, why are you in the stands with a piece of paper and a scorecard?
Number one,
was that a double or a triple? Let me write. Was that a fielder's choice?
Yeah, that's what it is. These are the ordered pairs that make up baseball.
What are we doing here?
You get a scorecard, and then over the years.
Was that a 4-6-3 double play?
Yo, man, you can make fun of me all you want. That's what I'd be doing. Last game I was at, as a matter of fact, the lady behind me was scoring the game as well. How about that?
Are you kidding me?
It was a moment of fellowship between us. Now I'm mad. He got me all fired up about scorecards. It's not even 8 in the morning.
Was she younger than you, older than you?
She was a mother of 2. She was about my age, and her husband was there as well. And we, as a family, I will say a baseball family, we scored the game together. Shout out to the St. Paul Saints. I was there covering the X Games. I went down there to see that ball game.
Wow.
Yeah, How about that?
Listen, I've learned a lot about you this morning. This is the most surprising thing so far.
Fair enough.
Okay.
What's next?
Al Avila trading his son to the Cubs is blank.
Personal suicide. Professionally, it could be smart. It's probably the best move for the organization. But here's something that inevitably is going to happen. You're going to get in a family setting, okay? And the family's going to be there, and you're going to have to talk to that uncle that's going to have that brewski, be like, what in the heck was wrong with you trading your boy?
Right.
Like, I mean, I understand professionally. I get it. But listen, Doc Rivers, they can say what they want to say about Austin. One thing I can tell you, Austin ain't going nowhere.
He got him paid, too.
Oh, and he got him paid. Just ask Big Baby. Right. Okay, Big Baby has told us that Austin is not good and that Doc Rivers got him paid. So this is personal suicide because the family reunion just got lit.
For me, that is exactly the point. It is awkward because you never know who's going to take whose side here. That's the other thing. You can assume that dad is in the right or assume that he's in the wrong, but there might be a lot of people where it breaks along certain family lines depending on who likes whom better or who thinks the deal is better. This is just an automatic division, as you said, at the family reunion. Very awkward when it comes to the Thanksgiving table. I'm glad I'm not in that position. What do we got?
If given the choice between a title or a Hall of Fame career, you would take blank.
I'm going to let you speak to this one first because I'm nowhere close to either one.
I'll take the title. And as a guy who played 9 years, had a chance to win 2 championships, had a pretty good career, not great, nowhere near Hall of Fame worthy. So maybe I'm a little biased on this, but here's what I think. You know, winning a title is about team accomplishment. And the one thing, like even in this Kyrie Irving situation, the one thing we learn is there's so many different parts of a team. You have your stars, your alpha dogs, you have your role players. And it's important to have all different phases of the team to make that team up. And for me, winning those championships, more important, the relationships that I've made are more important to me during, like now that I retired, than I think any individual accomplishment that I ever had. Like I think about making All-American at LSU. I think about all these different things, you know, being an alternate for the Pro Bowl and all these different things. But the title runs we had, man, going on those road trips when you know everybody else in the NFL is watching.
Wants to be there, yeah.
They want to be where you at, and then the Horst Lombardi Trophy, that to me would mean more. And once again, I may be a little biased. To me, that means more than going to the Hall of Fame.
I totally understand that. And not that this is on the same level at all, but I had a buddy of mine who ended up, you know, he played college soccer, and he got inducted into his college's Hall of Fame as a soccer player. And I remember thinking, I would have never considered that any sort of accomplishment that was going to matter to me or to him when we were coming out of high school, we were growing up. But at this stage, out of the game, living a normal life, just being with his family, it was hugely important to him. And I think that in that regard, chronologically, sure, you won a title first. And so it's hard to say that if you traded off one for the other, which one you would take away. But if you get a title or you don't, at the end of it all, if you got to be able to be recognized for all the efforts you gave to it in terms of your life, in terms of everybody you saw down the line, that's a fulfilling feeling.
It is. You talk to any former athlete, and here's what I'll tell you. Those athletes value the relationships today. Like some of these older football players, older baseball and basketball players, the one thing that they value is not the jackets that they wear. It's not the Hall of Fame ring. Like you can go to the Hall of Fame and see your bus. You want to go by yourself? It's about the relationships in life.
That's true.
Like the older I get, the more I understand life is about relationships, not individual accomplishments, but about what you can share and who you can be a part of as far as people. And I think the relationships you build on a championship run, or even a team in general, but specifically on a championship run, those are invaluable relationships. Listen to people talk that are veterans of sports. Watch what they talk about. They talk about the people they play with, the good times they had. Very few talk about their individual accomplishments, unless you're Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice will tell you everything he did.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
This is the best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Clinton Yates, Booger McFarland filling in here on a Monday. We're presented by Progressive Insurance, and all phone guests are on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. By the way, I host the weekend radio show on ESPN Radio. It's called The Morning Roast with Mike Himes and Dominic Foxworth, so you might want to check that out.
Love the plug.
Joining us right now is ESPN NFL insider Louis Riddick, giving you the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. What's up, Louis?
Nothing. Just came back from camp.
Yeah?
Came back from the Patriots.
Saw you up there in New England. How was
it? It's serious up there. It's serious. Y'all seriously better be getting prepared for an offense that's going to – they're coming to get you, man. That football team, it's nice going to camps where you see how – where it's on display why they're champions like they are. And it's kind of its own self-sustaining machine, man. I mean, Bill just kind of walks around and makes sure that everyone is doing what they need to do, but he's truly now – a CEO that can go in there and snatch anybody up by the neck if he wants and say, look, that's not right. But they've got it humming up there. It's nice to see.
With that being said, let's take a big picture look at the NFL right now. Is it the Patriots and then everybody else? Who do you think can be on their level just from a talent standpoint, from an organizational standpoint, as we go into this 2017 season?
Well, I mean, if you switch over to the NFC, look, Atlanta's legit.
Yeah.
They're legit. They got a very strong front office, stable ownership, new stadium, franchise quarterback, an offense that returns all the key components. Offensive line is solid. Perimeter playmakers are solid. And then on defense have gotten stronger now. Desmond Trufant comes back. Tack McKinley, if he's healthy, can help out Vic Beasley as far as rushing the passer. Could they have used another pass rusher at the end of that Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So they got that. They got Dontari Post, and now you got inside push. So there's a lot of things that are looking nice for that football team to get back to the big game as long as they don't have that Super Bowl hangover and they don't get hit with a bunch of injuries that just kind of knock them off course. I like where Atlanta's going. They've got a lot of brain power down there that knows how to build football teams, championship football teams. And the AFC moving back over there, Oakland's always the intriguing team to me. All the money invested in the offensive line. Beast Mode should be sitting there going, man, I can't wait to start running the rock now. Derek Carr got paid the way he should get paid. It's the defensive side of the ball that's a little bit scary. Don't have any linebackers. Got a great pass rusher. Secondary's a little suspect. But they're going to be there. Kansas City's going to be there. Pittsburgh's going to be there. It's going to be a good year, but look, there's still that gap.
Yeah.
It's still there. I mean, all these teams I just mentioned, there's still that gap. The Patriots just do it different. They just do it different, man.
How much are they going to risk Rob Ninkovich? Because let me explain something to you. I'm not a huge NFL guy. Rob Ninkovich walked into that room. I said, I'd never heard of this guy in my life. I thought Vrabel was still the guy wearing number 50. I'm sort of joking, but I'm not. He looks like if you were setting up a prank and just said, even if this isn't real, you're going to think that there's a guy retiring from the Pats, and that's going to be it, and they all came in. That was him. How much from an actual football standpoint, though, does he mean going away from the middle of that?
You know, it's interesting when you say that. If you go up to New England and you say – that guy, any guy, and you said that guy reminds me of Mike Vrabel, that guy would take that as a badge of honor. Because up there, Mike Vrabel is revered because that's the kind of players Bill wants, right? Very interchangeable, high character, locker room guys who everyone respects. And that's exactly what Mike Vrabel was. See all the players that showed up for his press conference yesterday. Dante Hightower is there. Tom Brady's there. I think it was 20-plus guys were in there listening to him talk. What they're going to miss is a guy who's a hybrid player. A crossfit between a 4-3 defensive end and a 3-4 outside linebacker that can play all three downs, cause fumbles, tip passes, interceptions, all those kinds of things that Bill just likes. He's just another cog in the machine that keeps everything rolling up there, and he's a two-time captain up there. Those are the things that Bill has preached ever since he got there in 2001. No, it was 2000. Interchangeable players who are very much so willing to sacrifice some of themselves to give to the greater good, which is the team. And I know that stuff sounds boring a lot to people because we're in an age where it's about me. How's this for me? How can I sell a jersey? How can I get more Twitter followers, more Instagram followers? That's not how it's like. That's not what it's like up there. They love guys like that, and he'll be able to go back to New England anytime he wants and be treated like a king.
Let's jump around to some other camps and just see what's going on. Blake Bortles, go down to Jacksonville. I know you can't judge a lot by the first couple of days. I've been there. I understand that. But there seems to be some concern about Blake Bortles throwing 5 interceptions at a practice. Where do we view him at, and just how big a year is this for Blake Bortles?
Blake is soon going to replace Jay Cutler as the ultimate tease. He's going to get that title from me.
Hot take.
Okay, and I'll tell you why. The guy, when he came out of school, it was all about, look, we can shorten his release, improve his mechanics. He's got great upside. His ceiling's real high, blah, 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 blah. Floors, ceilings are so high. And people get enamored with ceilings. And that's what people were enamored with him. But see, quarterback play, Booger, you know it. And the great quarterback coaches who I've been around have told me it's about decision-making and accuracy. And Blake really doesn't have either, especially in crunch time, especially when he has to have it. He can put up some garbage junk numbers in the fourth quarter when teams are playing soft cover 2 and you're just rushing 4 and trying to, basically just massage the clock. But when the chips are on the line and it's all in, he's doing now what he's going to do in the regular season because he's done it before. So if he's right now in the early parts of training camp turning the ball over to the other side of to the defense, what's he going to do when it's real live bullets? What's he going to do?
I would go back and say 2 years ago he played pretty well, though. And I think that's something, especially with the receiving core he's got. Now you look at what they're doing with Tom Coughlin there. You bring in Leonard Fournette. So you're trying to build a running game to take some of the pressure off of him. The factors you mentioned, is it something they can help him with in training camp? Accuracy, timing, decision-making. Is that something – because the season's still 6 weeks away. Can they help him with that?
Well, sure. And I think the thing that helps him with it are the things you just mentioned, which is really a strong running game to where you can dictate a little bit more to the defense as to how they're going to call their game because they're trying to slow down the run game. So that means a lot more 8-man fronts, a lot more single covers on the outside and the middle of the field safety. Now, with that, the decision-making part becomes much easier.
Yes.
The accuracy part – we'll see, because it's good when you're warming up and you're doing 7-on-7. You look pretty out there. Your feet are in line. You're getting your front shoulder pointed to where the ball needs to go, and you're firing it in there nice. But when people are rushing you, when there's people like you coming after you, and there's a lot of fans around, and you just got sacked on first down, now it's second and long, and now you have to, muscle memory comes into play. Do you resort back to what you were? And some players, no matter how they're coached, Booger, they just become who they are. Yeah. I'm afraid that's what he is.
We're talking with ESPN NFL insider Louis Riddick, and, he's a quarterback. Looks like they might be able to use a backup back there in Jaguarsville, which means we've got to talk about, obviously, what's going on in Baltimore. The owner of the team came out and discussed what he thought he was going to do. He said that they had talked to Ray Lewis. They've been discussing this down the line in their franchise. If you're in the front office right now, what is your mindset, specifically if you've got a situation like the one the Ravens do with an injured quarterback who knows that not only could this guy come in and be an issue in terms of everything else, but he probably might be able to take his job if things don't go super well.
Yeah, I mean, this issue, it is what it is. Every individual team has a tolerance level for things off of the football field that's different. They just are. What on the football field, look, if you look at Colin's numbers, yards per attempt, career passer rating, are better than Joe Flacco's. They're better. Now, people could say, well, those are just very generic stats, but look, passer rating is a pretty good stat, but you want to compare people over their careers. And Colin is a better football player right now than someone else who they're talking about bringing in to take a look at being RG3.
Yeah.
RG3 last year was awful. He didn't really deserve a workout. Colin deserves a look. When we get to this point, though, why is Steve Bisciotti doing the things he's doing as far as polling all these different people and getting all these? Because this is a very, 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 very sensitive issue. And Booger, I heard you say it early this morning. People are scared about this. Mm-hmm. They don't really know what to do about it because these guys are running businesses. They're getting pushback from certain parts of their fan base, and they're going, look, in the end, this is a business for us, and we vet all kinds of issues when it comes to players. We have to vet this issue, too. How's this going to affect our business? Ray? Look, it's probably a smart move on their part. Who's more connected to that city from an athletic standpoint than Ray Lewis? He knows what the people are thinking down there. He knows if this will be accepted. He knows if this will be something that negatively affects the organization, probably better than the owners themselves know, because he's in the community. He knows what's going on down there. What would I do? Look, there's a lot of things to consider for these football teams. I mean, the things that John Mara talked about in New York, I mean, that stuff's real. I mean, if they're getting the letters and they're getting the pushback from people in the fan base, well, I don't think he's lying about it. Now, how they handle it going forward, what's more important to them? Look, that's going to be up to the individual 32 teams how they handle it. Would I give Colin Kaepernick a chance? Yes, I would. I would have been brought him in at this point. I would really want, and for me, I think at this point it'd be about, look, Colin, we respect what you've done and how much you're still trying to do, obviously. Do you really how important is football to you? How committed are you to helping us in a role that's much different than what you're used to? Mm-hmm. And are you willing to be in it for the long haul and really do what's best for this football team? And if I feel as though our organization is strong enough and I'm comfortable enough with his answers, then I'm moving forward with it.
You know, Lewis, to your point, I think organizations are kind of fall into different categories around the NFL. There are the owners that are not even going to mention his name. GM's head coach is not going to say his name. There are some who, and this is why I want your perspective, who don't know what to do or how to feel. And just like you talked about, we're going to get in the room, and what I want to know is when you guys have an indifferent feeling like most have about Colin Kaepernick, do you talk to each other? Because the big word around the NFL, blackballing, colluding, as if everybody's gotten together in the room saying we're not going to sign him. I don't think that's going on at all. What I do think is going on, there are a group of people, what number it is, I don't know. They're getting together and they're saying, okay, are you guys talking about it? How would you guys handle this situation? Is that something from your expertise that would go on in an NFL front office, not about this situation, but when there is a contentious social situation in the NFL, do you guys talk to other teams and see how they would handle it and what they would think?
Absolutely. Yeah. Teams talk to other teams. I mean, these guys are your friends. These are guys that are people you have to do business with. These are the guys who you're making trades with, who you're trying to get information from. Look, when a player goes on the waiver wire or a player gets cut, how do you think you're finding out information about these guys before you bring them into your team or before you put in a waiver claim or you bring them in to work them out? Guys get on the phone and they call their buddies, the pro director at the other team, the college scouting director, the personnel director, the player programs guy, and go, tell us about this.
What's up with your boy?
That's right. Because maybe you worked with that guy before. Maybe you went to school with him. Maybe you had beers with him at the combine. I mean, they're all still people. Although they're working in front offices, they're still people. They're still friends. They're still colleagues. Whatever the level of your relationship is, of course they talk about it. You can't say that no other team has talked to another. One team hasn't talked to another team and said, hey, how are y'all feeling about Colin? How do you think your city would handle it? Your fan base would handle it? Your building would handle it? Your locker room would handle it? Of course they talk about it. And right now, overwhelming majority, obviously, right now, are not comfortable with it. Now, are they? Otherwise, he'd have at least gotten a workout. Seattle, that's it? That's the only team that thought he was worth bringing in for a workout? Come on.
I thought it was a step forward, the fact that Bisciotti and Mara at least would stand up and talk about the perception. Even if the signing wasn't imminent, they would at least stand up, bring his name up, speak his name, talk about him. Yeah. And even if their fan base was against it, the fact that they did that let me know that they were one of those, which I already knew, one of the pillar organizations. When you talk about the Patriots, talk about the Ravens, talk the Packers, the Giants, those organizations that are strong enough to do the right football thing regardless of the impact socially.
Well, I'll tell you what. For them to not want to talk about it, considering the fact that the types of players that have been allowed to play in the National Football League that have some of the track records that they do, they must. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say there must be some serious pushback that they're receiving.
Yeah.
This. It must be serious for them to not really, to almost like say, hey, look, you know what? Yeah, we've gotten some letters, or, man, you know what? Yeah, he's a guy who's under consideration. Yeah, and want to just change the subject quick.
Yeah.
Right.
There must be some serious pushback from some serious people that are making them go, whoa, this is different. Otherwise, we all know the NFL is about winning, and we know that Colin's better than other players out there, so why isn't he getting looks? Yeah. Well, something's going on.
To that point, Lewis, and before we switch gears and go somewhere else, is how much do you think the actual location of Baltimore plays a part in this? Because what we've seen in this country from a police brutality standpoint and from the very specific things that Colin Kaepernick has brought up in terms of what he is protesting, Baltimore is very much ground zero for a lot of this. How much do you think that affects this decision from a Ravens organization?
I think it's a big part of it. I think it's something that they're very cognizant of, and they're very much so going, okay, how will the law enforcement component of our city react to him being here? I think that's why you need people who have boots on the ground in that city. They need to find out, look, how would this be perceived? I believe that the Ravens know from a football perspective. Look, I mean, him and Ryan Mallett, come on now. I mean, we know.
Come on, what are we talking about?
I mean, we know what we're talking about. We know what's going on. They're just trying to figure out just what does this mean for us? What are all the different things that we know we may be forced to deal with, and what are the things that maybe we just don't even know? Because this is uncharted territory for these teams. You can tell, Booger, look, you put it perfectly. People just don't know in the National Football League really how to deal with this. And usually when you don't know and there's uncertainty, you don't go. You just don't do it. Right. You just ignore it and go move on to the next one. That's why all these other jokesters are getting workouts and being considered for the quarterback position, and he's not. Because this is obviously something that they're just not quite able to get their arms around as to what it's going to mean for their football team.
Switching gears, let's go out to Oxnard, California. Zeke Elliott, while he's done a lot of things that have been dumb and immature, in my opinion, the fact that this investigation has dragged on over a year, to me, is unfair to him. Mm-hmm. And when we're talking about domestic violence, my direct question is this. Why are we talking 1 to 2 game suspension when the NFL policy talked about 6 games with Zeke Elliott, number one? And why is it taking so long for the NFL to come out? Even though, because Jerry just said that the NFL and Zeke have met in the last month and then they're just waiting on the answers. Why is this taking so long? And why are we at this point with a 1 or 2 game suspension?
This is a great question. We'd like to know what the evidence really is. What does the NFL really have on them? What can they prove? What can they circumstantially prove? What exactly is the situation here? Because if you listen to it from Jerry Jones' standpoint, he says, look, I see nothing here that really, in his mind, would lead to a significant suspension. Correct. He just doesn't see anything. Right. And we don't know what the NFL knows. We don't really know what they're going to base their decision ultimately on. And you know this kind of thing, the longer it draws out, that usually means that maybe they don't have it. I don't know. I don't know why. This part of the disciplinary policy as far as the NFL is concerned is always something that is very gray. It's this whole issue, the domestic violence issue, has been something that they have fumbled and bumbled around for years now. And they're doing it again with this. We'll see what happens.
Well, let me ask you, though, in that regard, though, Jerry Jones not considering something to be wrong is not any sort of gold standard in terms of behavior in this league. But to that point, is there some level of special treatment that a player gets being under Jones if you're a league that's certainly not going to tell Jerry Jones that he can't be out here in party buses with league referees, right, and at the same time tell him one of his players is doing something wrong as well? Is there a different standard because of the personal behavior of that owner?
Maybe. Look, relationships make the world go round, okay? And you know that there are certain owners who are probably much more tight with the league office than others. Jerry Jones is big. Jerry Jones is powerful. Jerry Jones has a lot of influence. I don't know how those relationships are going at the highest level. I don't know how those decisions are being made. But to say that there's not the potential for preferential treatment across organizations, I think would just be putting your head in the sand.
Let's look at the Cowboys on the field. A lot is expected of this team. Dak Prescott, the offensive line, is the best offensive line in the business. I said last year that the Cowboys' biggest fall, and it would show its ugly head at some point, will be their lack of playmaking ability on defense. Mm-hmm. Go to the Green Bay game. It showed itself in that game. I don't see anything changed. I know Jalen Smith's trying to come out and be an impact player. Can the Cowboys' defense, currently as constructed, be a Super Bowl winning defense?
No, not in and of itself. No, they need the whole complementary angle of the game to be working in their favor like it did last year, which means you better have Ezekiel Elliott on the football field. The running game better be strong. The time of possession battle better be won by your football team, because they don't have the horses to say, we're going to rush 4, cover with 7. We've got some guys who can close out games a la Von Miller types, Khalil Mack types. A lot of uncertainty at the second level at linebacker. Jalen Smith, a lot of things are being pinned on Jalen Smith as far as being able to elevate this defense that I think are unfair. We don't even know how the kid would be able to.
What does he look like?
We don't know. By the way, you know what? From some of the clips that I've seen, he looks fantastic. But we don't look. It's a long season. Yeah. A lot of practice time, a lot of hits, a lot of things that he just hasn't been exposed to yet since coming off the injury. And in the secondary, it's totally turned over. Really, the only guy who you know back there who you can count on right now is Byron Jones. Everybody else is new. They haven't gotten better on that side of the ball, and they could potentially be missing for a game or 2 or however long this is going to ultimately be, or none, the best player on offense. A lot of uncertainty in Dallas.
Last thing I'll ask you, staying in that division, where do you think this situation with Odell Beckham Jr. is going in New York? I mean, look, I realize that it's a reasonable discussion to have in terms of who should be paid what, but when you're just coming into camp, I don't want to throw around the word distraction because, like I've said before, I don't necessarily believe that all distractions are actually distractions in the NFL. But how much do you think that the discussion around OBJ is affecting that camp?
I don't know if it's affecting the camp. I mean, I can't really say how much it's really affecting. Look, when you're in training camp right now, I mean, it's something that you hear. But, look, training camp, man, is about, for a lot of guys, just trying to make a team and survive to the next practice and making sure that your feet aren't too sore and you're getting the kind of rest that you need and you're learning your playbook. I don't think that stuff's really a distraction. OBJ's situation right now is really about this. It's about comfort level for the Giants as far as, look, if we go ahead and we put all our chips in and we pay this guy what we know he really is worth on the open market, What are we going to get? What's that going to mean? Is this going, are all the things that he has done and all the things, the kind of attention that he's brought to this football team, is this going to be magnified times 100? Or is he going to become, we're not saying he needs to become the choir boy type of leader here, but is he going to just go off on us? I'm telling you, those are the kind of decisions, those are the kind of discussions that you have when you're trying to decide about a player. Those are real discussions that they need to have. Because he's already, look, right now, as he's been ascending in the NFL, he's done some stuff that makes you go, man, can you just tone it down just a little? So we have to stop talking about you in the way we're talking about you. They know they're going to pay, and they're going to pay.
Right.
I'm telling you, the discussion that they're having, though, is what does this mean? How is it going to change him? How is it going to affect him once he gets what is going to be a mega, mega contract?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a huge deal. Before we let you go, I'm curious. You ever been to a baseball game?
Yeah.
When you go to a baseball game, what do you do at the baseball game?
Watch it.
That's kind of what I do. I mean, that's kind of what I do.
I know.
Us are of a higher level of sophistication.
What were you saying that you do?
I score games.
Oh, do you really?
Yes. Notice the wonderment with which he looked upon.
Well, I'm just saying. Is there something?
Is there something
I'm missing?
No. He goes to the baseball game. He, me, and Clinton Yates, and he will score the baseball game sitting in his seat. I've never met anybody who did that besides somebody who was working in the press box.
Why do you? Is it become the game?
First of all, there's sort of a casual elegance to it that I enjoy.
There's nothing elegant about that.
There's something to be said about
casual elegance.
There's something to be said about the progress you make as you go through it. And I'm just a big baseball fan. It's just, to me, it's a ritualistic kind of thing that's been fun.
He's bored.
#kids dig the scorecard.
Join
the club.
That's what. You just go get a hot dog and a Coke.
I'm not that guy. I actually like the game.
Let me tell you. I'll tell you what. You know what I like most about baseball, about live baseball? I love the duel between pitcher, hitter, and how much different it looks in person than on TV. You can't get a feel. That ball is humming.
It is.
And when you hear it hit the catcher's mitt, I mean, it's like, pow! I mean, I'm going, that's the kind of, I mean, I actually sit there and I'm fascinated just by the sport itself. I don't need to score it.
Do you bring a gun so you can see how fast they're throwing?
A radar.
No, but I might. No, yeah.
Let's be clear.
You bring a gun.
We got three brothers up here on stage. Got to know what we're talking about. He's Louis Riddick. He's an ESPN NFL insider. Thanks for joining us, man.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Joining us right now, Bomani Jones of the Right Time. He joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Bo, you ever scored a game that you were at live?
Yeah, he's always scored the games. Whenever we went when I was a kid, I'd always score the games.
See, that's as a kid, though, Bo. But as a grown man, if you go to a baseball game, say, in the last 10 years, are you scoring the game?
At this point, probably not, but I'm not into baseball like I was in that time. Like Bob Ryan says, every game he goes to, he fills out the scorecard.
Thank you, Bob Ryan, the quintessential American sports writer. Yeah. I am totally vindicated in this, and I'm so much happier now that we brought this up. Thank you, Bomani.
Although I would like to note, though, that if you're using Bob Ryan as your arbiter of whether or not what you're doing is cool, you might be hustling backwards.
It's not an arbiter of cool. It is not an arbiter of cool. It is a justification of tradition. Bomani, all right, look, it's summer wedding season. Steph Curry he's on videotape doing all this other stuff in terms of imitating LeBron James. Kyrie is there laughing along with the joke. What did you think about this video when you first saw it, Bo?
I mean, my first thought was there's certainly an irony in that corner of the room, like mocking somebody for not being cool. That was my immediate thought. It's like, oh, really? You with the air registered nurse shoes are going to be the one knocking somebody else for not being cool? We'd have to admit there's an irony there. I don't know if they knew they were on camera. Like, I don't know what exactly it was. But, hey, man, these dudes are petty. Like, that's the moral of the story is these dudes are petty. Kyrie is petty. Steph is pettier than he gets credit for being. They just some petty dudes. It's funny. But, I mean, I know we about to make a thing of it because we ain't got nothing else to talk about, but it's just petty.
But, man, I think the biggest issue is not the fact that they were making fun of LeBron at the wedding because that happens all the time. I think the bigger issue is still Kyrie and him being disgruntled and wanting to get out of Cleveland. So I'll ask you, with everything that's gone on, with everything that we know now, do you think there's any way that he can come back and play for the Cavaliers? Because I still do.
Nah, that horse been done left the barn. I mean, like, in theory, I suppose maybe it was possible, and I've had people who said that David Griffin was probably the guy that could figure out how to make the team. I don't really have a great answer on whether that's the case, but I do feel like right now too much is out here at this point for him to be able to come back. So, like, for Kyrie, if this is in part that I want to be the man and I feel like I'm stuck in LeBron's shadow, there's no walking back from that because you're still going to be in his shadow if you stay there. So, no, I mean, I think it's a wrap on that one. I don't know if it's the best for the Cavs. I don't know if it's the best for Kyrie, but it's over.
Bomani Jones, host of The Right Time on ESPN Radio, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Clinton Yates, Booger McFarland filling in here on Mike and Mike. Bo, let me ask you, sticking with basketball, I've said this before. I like LaVar Ball, the dad. I like LaVar Ball, the CEO. I like LaVar Ball, the hype man for his son. I don't like LaVar Ball, the basketball coach. What did you think of what happened this weekend at the AAU tournament and him getting that referee thrown out of the situation?
I mean, he seems to be pretty clearly and transparently a sexist in a way that's problematic once it starts getting anywhere near these games or the business that he is in. You know, like I'm sure somebody hit me up to tell me how much he loves the wife and all this stuff like that. That's cool. But the first time he did the stay in your lane thing, I thought that the woman from Fox, was it Christine Leahy, I thought she was out. I didn't like the way she handled it, but the way he came back on the other side seemed to indicate a certain level of intolerance for basically what he would probably term as some level of back talk with women.
Right.
The same thing seemed to happen in this game, in this AAU tournament. And then I was glad to see the refs make the call, like, nah, man, we're not going to put up with this. But Gary Parrish at CBS wrote a very good column that makes a big point that I do think has to be noted. Adidas really, really, really went out like a bunch of suckers when they capitulated to his desire to have that official taken out of the game. Like, they did not have to do that. Now, maybe it's because they're still trying to swing something with Lonzo Ball, because keep in mind, the Big Baller team is not sponsored by a shoe company, which makes them a bit anomalous on the high level of AAU basketball. For Adidas to be like, okay, no, we'll go ahead and we'll put this woman out of this tournament, LaVar, to make you happy. That's shameful. Like, that's indefensible in that shame.
Another interesting issue that happened this weekend is the Ravens owner, Steve Bisciotti, came out and he asked the people that they pray for his team as they continue to decide what to do with Colin Kaepernick. Now, that's a thought in and upon itself, but I would love to get your opinion on, A, Colin Kaepernick, as if we haven't heard that take already, but B, more importantly, how do you think that Steve Bisciotti is trying to decide whether or not they want to bring Kaepernick internally? Because he's been one of the few owners that would actually come out and say the man's name and talk about him being an option in his organization.
Yeah, but you know what, though? I think the moral of the story with this one is when you are a man who seems to be of little to no principle, it becomes very, very difficult for you to handle a situation like that and discuss it publicly. And the reason I feel comfortable saying that about Bisciotti, a man I do not know, is we saw how it went with the Ray Rice situation, right? Like, we saw how they wound up playing that, and they were just kind of rolling around with the two games at first. Then the video came out, and then they released them, and they wanted to act all big and bad on a matter of principle. On this one, this dude says, well, we're going to listen to fans, and then we're going to listen to sponsors, and then we want somebody to pray for us. Stand for something, man. Either stand for we're not going for what Kaepernick is doing, or stand for we don't have a problem with what he said. Now, I get that in Baltimore it's probably a little bit more complex than it is in some places, because their issues with police brutality have been a bit more front and center and have been a bit of national news, and they don't quite know how to deal with that. Okay, I get it, but don't do all of this. Like, the people who work in the Ravens PR department, I really don't understand how any of them still have jobs. Like, remember the disaster of the Ray Rice press conference and how that went. And then you look at this one where you let this dude get in front of people and say, so pray for us. Why don't you pray for the dude that doesn't have no job instead of the billionaire that can't seem to find any level of temerity in one direction or another to make a decision? Because I'd call him out if he made the decision and says we're absolutely not taking Kaepernick for this, because I think that would be problematic. But at least you'll be doing something, as opposed to this where we're just going to see what the money and you guys think, and that way we won't actually have to make a decision ourselves and we can just pass it off on everybody else. Weak.
is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast.
The best of Mike and Mike.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
The best of Mike and Mike. You're listening to the best of Mike and Mike. You're listening to the best of Mike and Mike.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike. Now you can subscribe to the best of Mike and Mike in the Listen tab of the ESPN app.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors.
Mm-hmm.
And shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.